Megan Dalla Camina, welcome to the show.
Hi, Leonie. I'm so happy to be back.
So good to have you on with us again. For those listening, we had Megan on a few episodes ago and we spoke all things from burnout to, her career to her experience as a parent and the book, obviously, Women Rising, and so much more. So I will pop the details of that episode in the show notes. It's certainly one to listen to. But I'm very excited to have Megan back for more than one episode this time because Megan is here for the tea, our segment where we do a 4-episode mini series with some of my favorite people. And so I really wanted to get Megan back on the show because I felt she's a wealth of knowledge. And I feel as though, so much of her experience will resonate with so many of us parents. Many of us are, who are working parents. And even if you're not a working parent, there's so many elements to this sort of the self-development aspect that I think you'll get so much out of. So for those of you who don't know who Megan is, let me give you a brief introduction. So she is a mother, an award-winning expert in women's leadership and empowerment with a notable career spanning 2 decades as a corporate executive at IBM, GE, PwC, and over a decade as a successful entrepreneur. She's the founder and CEO of Women Rising, and Megan leverages her vast experience to help women achieve clarity, build confidence, and become authentic leaders. And her Women Rising program has empowered over 10,000 women in 65 countries. And her latest book, Women Rising, The Force That Holds Us Back and the Tools to Help Us Rise, has been hailed life-changing and is a #1 bestseller on Amazon. So, Megan, are you ready for this mini-series to kick off?
I'm ready.
Awesome.
I'm bracing myself. Let's go.
So what we thought would be a great way to do this is obviously your book, Women Rising, as we said, it's absolutely transformative. And I thought a really great way to I wanted to get a lot more feedback from our audience around aspects that a lot of the themes that you bring up in the books and how that might relate to their challenges that they're experiencing in their everyday lives. So this episode, episode 1 of our mini series, we're going to focus on the section of the book where you talk all about the forces that hold us back, which is essentially those external forces that hold women and really society back, including societal pressures, barriers, and power paradoxes, and everything in between. Just before I kick off with some of our audience questions, Megan, is there anything that you would like our listeners to know specifically about this sort of section and theme of the book?
Yeah, great question. I think the important thing about the first part of the book around the forces that hold us back is that so often for us as women, we think that it's just us. We think if we're having a challenge or we're running up against an issue that, it's us, and we blame and we shame ourselves. And what I really want women and those who love women to really understand is that there are these external forces that stem from the patriarchy and societal expectations and gendered conditioning that significantly impact our lives as women, also men, all genders, and also as parents. So when we really understand these, and particularly the paradoxes that we're going to talk about, it can take such a load off of us just blaming ourselves for everything that goes wrong and that we're up against in our lives. So that's why this matters so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And it resonated so much with our audience. I have some questions that are brought in from both mums and dads actually around the societal, I guess, pressures that we may all feel. So I'll kick off with question 1. So what we had a working mum DM us, and she said, I often feel that society expects me to be superwoman, juggling everything perfectly, and that I need to be strong and not let motherhood affect my work. But how do I assert my boundaries without being seen as less competent?
Yeah, this is such a common challenge that we face. I used to face this as well, in my career. And it is this expectation, the motherhood paradox, that we expect women to work like they don't have children, and that we expect them to parent like they don't have a job outside the home. And that when we try and put these limitations and boundaries around ourselves because we have to as mothers, we hit this backlash of, well, you're not serious about your job and you're not as competent. So I think it's really important to set expectations with your boss if you have if you're working for someone else, to set those expectations that says, like, these are the parameters in which I am fully committed to my work. And these are the boundaries that I have around when I also need to step out and have my personal life and be a parent. And by the way, dads need to do this as well as mothers. But the gender backlash that women face around this is much more harsh than what we see from working fathers. So setting up the expectations, understanding what your boundaries are, and then holding that line. Because people will push back on your boundaries as much as you let them. And the only people who benefit from you, the only people who get upset with you having boundaries are the people who benefit from you not having any. Right? So we have to understand where we need that line. We have to deal with it. And then we need to manage ourselves. And what we talk about in part 2 of the book, which is around navigating that inner critic that will allow you to let other people push back on your boundaries. So that's the strategy for that one.
Yeah, it's interesting. I want to play devil's advocate. Let's say I'm a mum, I'm in the corporate machine and I've got a pretty big job. There's call it a exec meeting that's booked in for Tuesday at 2:00. And a week before I get told that my son's nativity play is at Tuesday at 2:00. Now there's 10 other people attending that meeting, but I want to be at these are what would you say we do? These are the real challenges.
These are the real challenges. And I lived these challenges for 18 years. So I really do understand what that looks like and what that feels like. I think we need to work out and make decisions and choices and be discerning about what matters and what doesn't in those specific situations. So how critical is it that you are at that meeting? Some meetings, we absolutely, it is a career defining or a career limiting meeting if we're not in that room. And some of those experiences that our children are going to have at school are also once in a lifetime things that we cannot miss. So where does this sit on the scale? And when both of those things are true, what is most important to you? And what are you going to regret the most if you miss? Are you really going to regret in 12 months' time not being in that meeting, in that executive meeting? Probably not. You're probably not even going to remember it. Are you going to miss being at your kid's nativity play? 100%. So, at the end of the day, it comes down to values and choices. And again, that's why this battling the external expectations that people and workplaces and bosses have of us and how that feeds our inner critic for what we think about ourselves, that impacts the choices that we make. This is how it ties together. And at the end of the day, we've got to come back to what is in my heart? What really matters to me? What am I going to regret? And it is very rarely going to be that meeting. That's just the truth. When we can take a step back and really look at it from that lens, but in the moment, it feels like an absolute crisis, right? But we have to take a step back. We have to really come back to ourselves. What matters most to me in this situation, and go do that. And let's be real, sometimes it's going to be the meeting. And that's okay as well. Sometimes, and I remember I missed, I attended as much as I missed when my kid was growing up, particularly as a single parent. But, sometimes you will need to make the choice that it is the meeting. Okay, so who can I get to go and be the support for my child at the school event? That's just reality as well.
Yeah, that's the next thing I was going to ask on that one. What do the conversations look like with the boss if we choose the nativity, and with our children if we can't be there?
Choosing who you work for and choosing the situations that you put yourself in. When we have a choice, we don't always have a choice, and that's just reality as well.
Yeah.
But, hopefully you will have a manager that you can have that conversation with and say, I need to be here. I'll make up the time. I'll do the thing. I'll make sure you're prepared, whatever it is. But today, this is where I need to be.
Just pause.
And that
say, I'll make up the time one more time because we'll just cut that. So
I'll make up the time. I'll make sure that everything is done and, that you're prepared, whatever needs to happen in that meeting, but I need to be here. And if you find yourself continually in a situation where that is not okay and that you can't manage all of the aspects that you need to manage in your work and your life, then I would absolutely be suggesting that you start looking for your next opportunity. And that may take some time, and that's okay as well. But if you have a manager or a workplace that is making it impossible for you to navigate the complexities of being a working parent, then start navigating, where's my pivot here? Could be to a new manager in the same company, could be a different company, but we have to be able to put our lives together in a way that makes it work for us. And I feel like there's so much more permission these days to be able to do that for all genders.
yes. And I love what you said about putting parameters around this is what I'm going to do to support that meeting that perhaps I can't be at. But so it means a lot to me. However, I've got to be over here. And I also love the idea of if you can't be at your children's thing, is there someone else that can be there as that support person? Is that sort of your recommendation around that one too with the children?
Absolutely. And it could be, if you're in a partnership, it could be your partner is there, whether that's their parent or not. If not, is there a best friend? Is there an auntie? Is there a grandparent? Is there someone else supportive in your child's life who can show up? And then you have that conversation with your child that I can't be here, but how exciting, Mary's coming, or Joe's going to be there and I can't wait to see the photos and you can tell me all about it when I get home.
Yeah, I love that. Moving on to the second question. So this one's from a dad, and he said, I'm the sole breadwinner and I feel immense pressure to always provide financially. This makes me feel stuck in a career I don't enjoy. How do I challenge this traditional role without letting my family down?
Yeah, this is a really important question. And this factors into, when we look at patriarchy and when we look at gendered expectations and societal expectations that can negatively impact women, they can also and do negatively impact men. And this gendered construct that we still is so pervasive in our society that men are the breadwinner. Men have to go out to work. They can't have that time, at home. Causes issues on every single level. So look, for this man who is in this situation, which I see a lot with the work that I do with men, it is looking at, for you in your career, doing the work that I teach women around, well, what would your ideal life vision look like? And what would meaningful work look like? And where are you at in your career? What's working really well? What's not working really well? And what would a better solution look like for you? And how could you start to build a pipeline from where you are now to start to mitigate what's not working for you and start moving towards what would be an ideal solution? And we can do that from a career perspective. There may be conversations that you need to have, at home with your partner, with your kids as the sole breadwinner, because men also so often don't feel like they have permission to voice that, to express, I feel trapped. I feel trapped as a man, I feel trapped in my role, I feel trapped with the financial situation and all of this pressure, because there may be other solutions, creative solutions. Maybe your partner really wants to go and do some part-time work. And maybe that would really help the financial situation and give you some more freedom. So get creative, really take a good look at what would you love it to look like? And how do you start building a path towards that? Because if you are feeling really constricted, sometimes all of those options shut down. Our literal neural pathways in our brain close down. Even our eyesight, our lens, our peripheral vision shuts down, and we need to open all of that back up again. So step into the possibility, do that visioning, have the creative conversations, and see what's possible for that and then build a path to get to that place.
I love that. Again, I'm thinking about the people listening going, okay, yes, I might be aware of ideal world and so certainly could work to that. But cost of living is an absolute joke at the moment. And, I need to maintain an income. I've got my mortgage or I've got my rent that's through sky high. I'm paying $10 for a capsicum. Daycare costs are killing me. So sometimes the pressure is so incredibly immense, not just from society, but just knowing I've got to put food on the table. So even more so, we can feel so buried in that and so heavy. So,
Yes.
Thinking about ideal world, that's certainly, I love that because you need to know where you're headed. But any sort of commentary around knowing the realities of the situation that we're all living in at the moment?
Yeah, and look, we're all in that situation at the moment, particularly in Australia. Not just in Australia, but I know there's similar issues going on in the US and many other places. And sometimes that pressure stops us from even glimpsing what else could be possible, right? And that's that narrowing of our view because we are so weighted down and we're so the stress levels and the anxiety around money, etc. But looking towards what's possible doesn't mean that you're going to quit your day job. It doesn't mean you're going to stop having that income coming in. It just means you're going to start building a bridge to something that fits you better. And that may be more money. It may be less money, but it may mean that you're going to go through your expenses really rigorously and you're going to look at what can come out. If I want to make a shift, well, again, what are some creative solutions for how we do that? Do you need to go and put some possessions in your house on eBay and sell and bring some more cash flow? There are a lot of creative solutions that can keep us in that realm of possibility, but still let us take care of the practicalities. I remember when I left my corporate career and I was a single mother with sole financial responsibility for my son and a mortgage and school fees and all of the things. But that could have kept me stuck in that corporate career for years and years and years and years. But this is exactly what I'm recommending is the work that I did. And it took 3 years to exit because I needed to get things in place that would shore me up financially. But just having that possibility of that plan and that vision kept me going and sort of kept me above the fray, if that makes sense. So both things can be true. We can be managing the day-to-day and all of the pressures that come with that. And we can also be looking forward to, well, what would a better future and a better situation look like for me and my family? And how can I take small steps to inch me towards that while still taking care of everything that needs to be taken care of?
Yeah, yep, love it. All right, so another question. This one's from a stay-at-home mum, and they said that I often hear that staying at home is easy compared to working. It makes me feel undervalued. How can I increase my self-worth in this situation? And just a shout out to that person. I think that stay-at-home parents have the hardest job in the world. So literally, my hat goes off to all of you listening who are stay-at-home parents. But I'd love your thoughts, Megan.
Yeah, look, let's be real, right? Parenting is the hardest job in the world. And I also think being home with children all day is the hardest job in the world. It is much easier and much less stress and anxiety, I think, for a lot of us to go to a job rather than, right? So, yes, I completely agree. Hats off. I think the first piece of this is you have to value what you do because society has no trouble telling women particularly that they have no value and that your only value in the world is out there. Yep, in typical success models of you've got the big job and you've got the this and all of the rest of it. And this is part of the shift that we have to make. We have to make this shift of valuing women's work. And the work that we do also goes for single fathers, right? Who are or stay-at-home fathers. So looking for yourself at how do I value the work that I do as a parent, as a stay-at-home parent? Because we also need to realize that what we feel is projected from society is often also what we have, what we're carrying internally. And valuing the work that you do, validating that for yourself, finding other people as well, could be in a parents group or with your girlfriends or, through your partner, that also see and value and respect and can reflect that back to you. The value that you bring from being a stay-at-home mum, all of those things. Yeah. And then the inner critic that we'll talk about. What are the stories that you tell yourself that devalue the role that you play is another really important part of this self-worth equation.
Yeah, it's interesting. More recently, I was speaking to a group of mothers, and I always sort of asked them about their relationship. And it came up with a few people in the room that the one thing I struggle with is that I'm the stay at home parent, is what, a number of the mothers said. My husband comes home and goes, I'm tired. I've had a long day at work and I'm still running circles. And it's like, but I'm tired too. And so they had that piece of like, but I feel bad to ask for too much help because I guess this is my job at the moment. And it's just this really, and I was sort of encouraging them to ensure that we don't let resentment build because we're feeling this inequality and because that can fester and then create bigger problems for the relationships. It's important to communicate. I'd love your thoughts because this is what I'm seeing only 2 days ago from a group of mothers that I was speaking to. It is a real thing, isn't it?
It is a real thing. And communication is incredibly important. And I have had this conversation with so many girlfriends who are in that situation where they're at home with the kids and the husband goes to work and they have that exact conflict. And that, which only contributes to that feeling of frustration, resentment, and I'm not valued. At the end of the day, we all want to be seen. We all want to be seen. We all want to be valued. It is our intrinsic human need. And all of those things compound. One of the things that I love suggesting, and I've seen this work so well so many times, switch roles. Find a way to put your husband in the position for a day or a week or whatever you can do of the exact day that you have to juggle. And all of not an easy day, not a when kids are on school holidays day, but a day or a couple of days when you are in the thick of it, and just let them experience it. Like, no judgment, no, just let them experience it. And I find that when husbands who go to work or a partner who goes to work has to switch and really sees this is everything that goes on. Here's the school calendar. Here are all the things I'm juggling and holding in my mental load and my emotional load. We start to build some understanding and some compassion and some empathy and then some support. Yeah. And that, well, you're tired. Yeah. Well, now you know how tired I am. Yeah. Without conflict, but just understanding. How do we build that in? And then what do they need when they come home so that they can have some recharge and restoration? And what do you need at the end of your day? How do you build some support around that for both of you so that you're both getting what you need and that both levels of exhaustion and tiredness are equally respected and honored and supported? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And it makes me think of often they'll have the paternity leave of 3 months. And a lot of friends of mine have taken that up so that, obviously where the dad stays with the baby. And that's been a real shift in people's relationships where resentment's been shaken out a little bit for that good reason. We're starting to appreciate each other's roles because we've done a role pivot. Or I think about in COVID when I had babies and my husband's working from home, he's on the phone the whole day, but he's just watching me running circles around him with the kids and everything. Is like, you don't stop. So I think you're right. A bit of visibility into each other's lives is probably a good place to start where you can find an opportunity to do so. This has been a really great conversation for our episode 1. Is there anything, any sort of final words that you want to leave with our audience, Megan?
Oh, look, there's so much, right? We've just skimmed the surface with these such great questions. I want women particularly to honor their role and honor their value, whatever that role is, whether they're at work, whether they're at home, it's all work, right? And for dads to do that as well. And then to have conversations, have discussions. And if you're a single parent, where's your support system? Where are the people that are supporting you and validating you and giving you what you need? Because that's an incredibly challenging role. And look, a lot of mothers feel like they're single parents, even though they're in a partnership. So what do you need? And how can you get those needs met, no matter where you sit on the equation of parenthood?
Yeah, love that. Well, thank you so much, Megan, for your time, and we'll catch you next time.
See you next time.